Hello, Abigail here with a little info dump about spirit guides. So, this is mostly from my own personal experience and kind of the wisdom that I've gathered from other practitioners and people along the way. I think spirit guides are a really important part of anybody who does spiritual work. I don't think you have to be aligned with any, you can be a Christian witch, you can practice any kind of spirituality, I think, to participate in this. It's also a very safe practice. Not that some practices are like technically dangerous, but depending on your spiritual makeup, you may or may not attract certain entities that when you do kind of dabble in things can be tricky. I'm speaking from experience. So if that's not you, ignore that advice. But I do want to talk about spirit guides. Like, what are they? How to connect with them, and then, what their function is. So I think spirit guides come by a lot of different names. I think some people call them guardian angels, although I kind of view those as two kind of distinctly different beings. But where they kind of come in tandem with that kind of idea is that they are very specifically for you. Your unique soul is their unique partner. And so they don't really work in service of anyone else. They are there specifically for you. Um, from my experience, for the guides to function and be active, they don't need to be fed or venerated. I like to offer them things because it's a sign of gratitude. But as far as like, in order to function, do they have to have it? No. Um, like I said, I think it's nice and a good practice to take care of them and to show them your appreciation and to participate in a relationship. But, when I am the most exhausted and most worn out and most unable to function, they are the most stable and um, like connected spirit that I have. You can have multiple. I do, but I really mainly work with the first one. Like primarily, like they are the comfort guide that I go to. They're not omnipotent or omniscient, but they are more aware than I am, at least spiritually. They come in all different shapes and sizes. They can come as in human form. They can come in animal form. I personally believe they can also come in plant form because I do believe that plants have a soul. Um, Basically, they can come in any the form of anything that is sold. And if you're an animist, they could be a rock. And that's functional. So don't limit the parameters of what your spirit guide can like show up as. Also, you don't and you may not see them as a physical being at first at all. Depends on your experience with psychic visions. Um, which my personal belief is that anyone can have psychic visions, whether they are born with them or not. It's about spiritual practice, determination, your purpose, etc. So, they can show up also as just a kind of a response that you feel in your head. They can come as an audible voice. Um, I find that the communication is more psychic, kind of like a conversation sometimes, but there's also a form of psychic conversation that doesn't get talked about enough, which is where you ask a question and then you just know. That is also a psychic conversation. Like I've spoken to, spirit babies and other types of spirits that I communicate with, and it is literally just me having a question and then knowing the answer instantly. There's not a dialogue back and forth. It's like just an information drop. That is also a way spirit guides can connect. I think the most important thing about spirit guides is that they are completely safe, that you should not feel threatened or endangered by them. And also, they will already know your name, which is not something that other spirits will have. Names are really important in spirit work. People have different opinions on why. A lot of people believe because we put such importance on names that they become important spiritually. Um, People think naming is just kind of a universal thing, and so spirits find them important too. I don't think it matters how it's important. It just is. Don't give your name to random entities. It's a really easy way to keep yourself safe. And the spirits that are meant for you will already either know your name or not need your name, or it will be given to them in like some other way. So spirit guides already are tapped in. They've been with you since you were born. They don't like appear. I think you can kind of accumulate some in your lifetime, but they're not the same to me as like my initial spirit guide. Um, I don't think there's any rules around it. The one only rule that I personally follow with spirit guides is I just don't share their name, which is funny because I share everything. I don't really have a filter as an autistic person with ADHD. If I do, it's because I'm highly masking and it's really exhausting. But I was told when I started reaching out that you shouldn't share their name, and I actually do think it's a really good practice. It's a nice kind of honor, a little honoring special moment where you only have their name and they already have yours. And so, that's just something I do. I would suggest using it. I have found that it to me seems to really build our connection. Um, if you want to go on sharing your spirit guide name, because I have people who told me theirs, that's also fine. I just find it really special to me to have their name and to, as someone who's a blabbermouth, to not tell anyone. Um, so yeah, and then going into like how do I connect with a spirit guide, and what can they do for me? So firstly, I probably don't utilize them enough, to be honest. I was raised in like Christian culture, which it's really weird. It's this idea of always asking, you need to always ask God for stuff, but like if you ask him, then you're a selfish, greedy pig, basically. So when it comes for me asking for help from guides, I don't ask enough. I'll just say that. I don't ask enough, or I wait till I'm really desperate and things are really bad. And I don't think that's bad per se. I'm working on trying to ask for help more, both spiritually and physically, because I really don't have a choice as a disabled person, which is fine. It's good to ask for help, regardless of your abilities. But, you know, they will come in and help you. They're also a great comfort. They're not super massively powerful in like shifting your landscape, but they do give you like oomph to like maintain yourself spiritually in times when you're not able to. Um, Mine also comes to offer advice or to agree when I'm like, I did something stupid. And they're like, yeah, you did. Which I appreciate the honesty. Um, so I'll just tell the story of how I met my spirit guide. Um, Someone had told me about spirit guides several months previously, and I'd been like, cool, great. Didn't feel an impetus to connect. I was also still kind of processing my relationship with spirituality. I was still a Christian, all these things. And you can be a Christian, which I just am not. I can't read the Bible without getting nauseous because of my childhood. So, yes, using the Bible in witchcraft, or doing folk magic is really hard for me if it involves scripture because it makes me feel gross. And that doesn't have to be the case for you. That's a trauma thing. Um, I think the Bible is a really effective set of spells, honestly. But anyways, so I was just walking down the street one day, living my little life. I had just moved, and I just asked for their name out of nowhere. I just felt this impulse to ask, and I hadn't thought about it in a while. And they gave me their name instantly. It was just like a little psychic knowing. Like I knew their name, and also it was a name that I had liked for a long time. Like I'd really loved this name, especially as a kid. There were like characters in like fairy tales and stuff like that who had like similar names, and um, so when they gave it to me, it was like, oh. And then what's interesting is I didn't see their physical form until like a year and a half ago, when I started really pursuing psychic channeling because I knew in order to become a spirit baby medium, I needed to be able to psychically see what was happening. Um, and I felt, and I can, if you're interested, you can comment this. If one person comments, I will do a video on it. That is, excuse me, that's how I function. Um, but I knew I needed to, sorry, I'm getting gunk. I knew I needed to psychically see in order to do the work I needed to do. And I'd always had like either bursts of psychic connection or random psychic visions, but never like, I need to see now. Like on command, like I could pull it up in a reading and reliably like tell my clients this is what you're gonna get. Um, and so when I started to really pick up steam on my path to like opening my ability to see, that's when I got the image of my spirit guide in their physical form, which was also actually something I was quite familiar with. Um, it was, a soul type that I had been around a lot and had loved as a child. So I don't think it always has to be directly child related, but I personally have noticed that there's a theme of like my spirit guide fits. And once again, it's one of those chicken egg things. Like, does my spirit guide show up like this because of the things I was obsessed with as a kid? Or was I obsessed with these things as a kid because of my spirit guide's name and form? You can take your pick. But then I slowly began to build a relationship with them. And it's still spotty because I tend to either be really high functioning or really low functioning. And right now I'm in like autistic burnout. So I'm in a long period of low function. And I'm guessing that that's probably going to be more of what my life is moving forward. I think my years of like having massive high function, it was mostly just me panicking and trying to stay alive. And I'm more like at a baseline of like minor function the whole time. Anyways, um, so I offer them stuff every so often. Like I said, it's not necessary, but I think it's really nice to do. They are there purely for you, and they have been sustaining themselves, you know, whether you've known it or not for years. Um, but they are really helpful, and I find that I use their imagery in a lot of stuff just naturally. Um, like I said, they can both be supportive in energetic ways. They can be supportive by the conversations you have with them. Um, Mine's a little sassy, but that's also kind of where I lean towards when I like enjoy other beings. And I like someone with a little bit of sass and who's a little bit rotten. But yeah, I've known people who've have spirit guides who show up as a person. I think the key thing is, especially if you tend to have kind of like experiences with um these spirits or deities who aren't your spirit guide, who've been trying to like sneak in under that guise. Something I learned when I got attuned for Reiki is to, and I laughed and thought it was funny. This is how I do most things. I was like, oh, that's so crazy. And then it works. Is to ask them if they are pristine light. Firstly, your spirit guide should already know your name, so that should be a trigger. You should also feel safe. But if you ever are questioning if it's your guide or not, you can ask them if they're pristine light. And if they say yes, then you're good. If they say no or there's a long pause, just don't chance it. That's kind of how I go as someone who tends to have to deal with a lot of beings and deities who view me as like a cosmic snack that they want to munch on, so they try to sneak in. I don't really view them as evil per se. They're just self-centered deities who, or not deities, but self-centered spirits who just want to use my energy, and they're going to do it any way they can. Um, which I'm like, okay, fine, but that's not going to happen, and you're also going to try to destroy me in the process. So, but yeah, that's kind of my thing on spirit guides. There's a lot of, I think a spirit guide altar is a good idea. I don't have one yet. Um, I'm kind of rearranging, if you can't tell, with all this garbage for weeks on end. It's taken me a while. I'm kind of rearranging my space, trying to figure out how I want to put stuff. I'm also going to get a new shelf, I think, over there. But I think I might put a guide shelf on that one actually, a guide altar on that one. But yeah, you don't have to. They're low maintenance in the sense that they are always there for you. It doesn't mean that I think you should neglect them. But they are incredibly helpful. They're also kind of a great entryway into spirit work. Um, they're super comforting. They are not your ancestors, so they don't really have I love ancestor work, but it does come with, family baggage and stuff. So they're just a nice kind of good neutral spirit to work with, and I do think they're a wonderful entry point into spirit work. Like I said, you can have multiple ones. I've kind of quasi connected with my other ones, but um when I connected with them, I was kind of like, I need to connect with all of them now. A nice fun trick you can actually do if you want to know how many you have is you can pull a tarot card and whatever numeral you get, or maybe it's not even the numeral, maybe there's like objects on the card that are a certain number. Um, like there's those little flames in the Rider Waite decks, and there's a name for them. I can't remember. But yeah, you can check how many you might have. Like I said, I do think that it can fluctuate over time, but I don't really think those are spirit guides. I think they are kind of a secondary kind of protective guide that is here to help, but it's not like from birth. So yeah, that's it. I also do have a sneaky feeling that spirit guides might also be past life, um, have been past life guides or someone important in a past life. And but I think it's more of like rather than like a person from your past life, it's more of like a spirit from your past life that you keep reincarnating with, which I think is really special. That my spirit guide has been with me for so long and that we have this unique relationship and that, they're kind of always there for me, which I find really lovely. And like I said, they're really, for mine is really fun and sassy and rotten. Um, and yours will have its own unique relationship to you. And no, if you don't have psychic visions and you can't see their exact form, that's fine. Don't sweat it. If you really want to see their exact form, like I said, I can do a video talking about, kind of my journey into like, fully tapping into my psychic abilities. I personally don't believe it's hierarchy. I don't believe like I do think that maybe coming from a long line of people who see visions and stuff probably does amplify it, but I don't think it's like a moralistic thing or like a thing where it's like, well, you're better at this because your family's done it for so long. I think anyone can and is powerfully gifted. It just depends on what you want and need in this lifetime. All right, anyways, I'll stop rambling, but that was my little info dump on spirit guides. I would love to hear any of your experiences. Like I said, this is uniquely mine. I'm sure they show up in different ways for different people. That is just the nature of magic. Anyways, I will see you all in different space and time. Please like and subscribe if you found this fun or enlightening, and I'll see you next time.